Hello and welcome to the second class of HTML. Today we will be discussing about HTML list and I hope you will follow along. So let's dig deep and get into HTML lists. Basically, when you talk about HTML lists, we have two types of lists, that is an ordered HTML list and ordered HTML list. An ordered HTML list starts with a UL tag, and each list item starts with a LI tag. The list items will be marked with a small black circle. That's by default. By default, any unordered list will be marked with a small black circle. Okay, we go to ordered HTML list. Ordered list start with the OL tag. This we have said an ordered starts with a UL tag. An ordered starts with OL tag. You can note the difference. So each list item starts with the L tag. It's the same as the unordered HTML list. So the list items will be marked with the numbers by default. So by default, for the ordered list, it starts from 1, 2, 3, going down as the number of items we have described in the L tag, LI tag. So we have another thing we call HTML description list. HTML also supports description list. Description list is a list of terms with a description of each term. So how do we describe these ones? We start with a DL tag, defines the description list, and then we have DT tag. DT tag is used to define the term or the name of whatever you're trying to describe in that list. And then we have DD. That tag describes each term. So you start with DT, like something like maybe you're talking about school, and then you go to DD. You need to describe that school. Maybe you're talking about something like coffee. You say DT, and then you have coffee. And then when you go to DD, it's strong coffee. And then maybe you can have something like T as DT, and then DD you have something like strong coffee or strong tea, something like that. So let's go to an ordered HTML list and understand more as we code together. So we have something called an ordered HTML list, as we have said. So we have said they start with the UL tag, and each item in the unordered list is described using the LI tag. Is such the list item. The list item will be marked with the small black circles by default. We have said that by default then we start with a small black circle, but also you can have another way. Maybe you can want to start with the disk, the circle, the square, the none. I will show you. None is basically you don't want those circles, you just want them to list themselves without any form of numbering, not numbering, any form of either circle, square, on ordered list. But I'm trying. So guys, let's do an example to understand more. So we are going to start with an unordered list. We have said they always start with the UL tag, and then when you're describing the items, you describe them using the LI tag. Note that very well. We said we start with the dog type, HTML, then we have the HTML. I think by now you understand what we are doing. The body, and now I want us to put the items. So we have said in an ordered list you use the UL. Then you can now start listing them. Listing, you start with the LI tag. You can say something like coffee. Then you make sure you close. Let's include something else. Tea. And close it. Ensure you close whatever you open. So not that one is li. Can include something else. Milk. Then you can close it, and then ensure you also close the UL for an ordered list. Then close the body. I'm sure by now you can recall all this and why we are closing them. And you also close the HTML. And yes, let's save our work. We go to save as. And we can call it something, let's say ul dot html. Wow, let's go to a folder and go back to our folder. And yeah, there it is. We have it, and I told you as default you will have them marked in circles like this by default. Now this is like an example of an unordered list. It will appear like this in your browser, any browser you are using. So now there's something I was saying about having, if you don't want to use those small black circles, you can use something like circle, you can use something like square, disc. So how do you do this? So I want us to do with an example. You understand? So there's something called the CSS list style type. You use the CSS list type property to define the style of the list item marker. So whenever you want to use the disc, the square, the circle, use something called list type property. You add it in the UL tag. You add it there, as we said in the inline styling. You added that style, and then you add the value. This is the same way. You're going to write the list type, and then you add the value. Maybe that value will be disc, square. So let's have an example. To the example we just did, this one, and we come over here. You want to add that list type. So you start with style. Go with me. Ensure you do the same. List type. Style. You can start with the example of a disc. A disc sets the list item marker to a bullet as a default. So we can start with the disc and see how it's gonna be done. So we can set it as disc. Let's save our work. Let's go to our browser. Refresh. Let's refresh our browser. So there it is. That's a form of a disc. Now to see that's what, let's go and try another example using maybe something like you can try something like circle. Let's set it to circle. So I've set, I want the coffee, the tea, the milk to be arranged in a manner that whereby we have circles instead of having the default one of disk, or to have circles. So we save our work, and let's save our work. Let's go back to our browser, refresh it, and there we had the disk, and now we have circles. Let's say another example. We can try the a square. So go back here, we put square. And we save our work. Come back to our browser, refresh it. So now we have squares. Let's go back and try. Now maybe we do not want all those type squares, circles, do not need them. We just need them listed down, no numbering. So we can have something like none. We write the name none, write the word none. This is the value you're going to put there, so the list items will not be marked. So let's come to none. Let's put none. So we put none and we save our work. If we refresh the browser, so you can see they're not marked. So that's an example of an ordered list. That's basically an example of an ordered list. Now let's continue. So another thing in an ordered list, you must understand we have something. So we have something called nested HTML list. Basically, nested HTML list, so whereby you can have items within other items. For example, in your list, and then you have other lists, coffee, and then you have another list of items. Maybe coffee, you have black coffee, white coffee. Let's do an example and I'll show you. So we have this example here. Have this example of ours here, and I want to include the nested HTML list. So we can do something. Maybe we can have black coffee, we want to have white coffee, so we can include them here. To include them there, you just start another unordered list within the unordered list of coffee. So start another unordered list, ul, close it. We change this one maybe to something like black coffee. Let's copy this code. Let's have another example of coffee. Say this black and have white coffee. It's just an example. Then you remember to close the UL. We are closing it here because it's another unordered list we have opened within another unordered list, and that is an example of a nested unordered list. Save your work, back to the browser, refresh it, and there it is. We have coffee within, we have black coffee and white coffee within the coffee. So this is an example of an nested unordered list. Let's continue and let's go now to ordered lists. Ordered list, we have said that they start with the tag OL, ordered list. They start with the OL, and ordered, we have said they start with UL. Now this one we start with OL, but something similar is the LI tag. It's used to describe the list item there. So let's have an example down to understand ordered list. So let's go to our editors, open a new file, and we start same way we did this. Must start with the doc type HTML. Then we have HTML. Body. Then we start our ordered list with tag OL. Within OL we have the list now, LI. This space is not necessary. Now we have LI for lists. We have a list similar to the one we just had, the example coffee. Li. Can have tea. Li. Can have milk. Let's close the OL. Let's close the body. Let's close the HTML. So let's save our work. Save as. Now this one can save ol.html. Save it. Go back to our folder. This one is ol.html. Wait for the browser to load, and there we have it. We said by default we start with the number 1. We start with the numbering of 1 going downwards with the items you have there. So something else in ordered list, as we did in an ordered list, you can change the way they appear. Maybe here 1 2 3 can have A B C D, small a B C D, capital A B C D, Roman number I 2 3 can have them like that. How do you do that? Here it is. You can have type 1. Item will be numbers. Type A. The item will be numbered with uppercase letters. You have small a numbered with lowercase letters. I for Roman, numbered with uppercase Roman numbers. Small I numbered with the lowercase Roman numbers. Let's do an example to understand. So for example, we go back the code and try to change it. So something to note, you use for the other one you use type 1. So let's do an example. So you come here to the OL tag, and instead of using our style list type, you just use type. Now type for here, we want to start with ensure you open these ones, and for our type we're going to start with A, uppercase A. Let's save our work, go back to the browser, refresh it, and there it is. Now they're numbered in terms of uppercase A, and they go down on A, B, C. They can go up to Z according to the items you have in the LI. So now let's go and try another example with small a. Back to our editor. Let's use now the lowercase a. File, save your work, refresh the browser, and there it is. Now they are lower. The next one is uppercase Roman number. We start with I. Go back to the core editor. Let's put uppercase I. Let's save our work and refresh it. There we have it. Now let's go try another example using the lowercase I. And save your work. Go back to your browser, refresh it, and there it is. So ensure you do the same to have the same results. If you don't have the same results, go back to the code and look at it. So now continue. Another thing you can do with the ordered list is that you can, by default, an ordered list we start counting from 1. But if you don't want it to start counting from 1, you can, if you want to start counting from a specified number, you can use the start attribute to have your list of items starting to count from that number. So here we have type. We want now our hour, so we can include something. By default they start from 1 coffee, 2 is tea, 3 is milk, but we want them to start maybe from 10, so we put the start attribute. Let's say 10. Let's save our work. About the browser, refresh it, you can see 10, 11, 12. So guys, this is what we have done. We've gotten these ones, and I hope you have understood about the start attribute. Use it when you start you want your list to start at a particular or a specified number. For this one, you say 10, so you have the items, so it started from 10, 11, 12. So ensure you do even that example to understand more. So let's continue, and we got something called HTML description list. HTML description list, lists of terms. List is a list of terms with a description of each term. So we used something, now we introduce other tags like DL. DL tag defines the description list, and DT defines the term, and DD describes DT. For example, we have something like coffee. Coffee, you can have black hot drink. So within coffee, the DT, you can describe this coffee, and we say we have black hot drink. So to describe this way, you need to add something called DD. DD we describe DT. DT means description term, and we have DL description list. DT description term, the term for here is coffee, and the DD describing the DT is black hot drink. So another, we have DT as milk, and DD describe the DT, we have white cold drink, so milk, and then we have white cold drink. So here on our editors, let's open a new file, and let's start the HTML description list code. As our norm, we need to start with the doc type HTML. So shift I doc type HTML, then close it, then open the HTML file, close it. Now we open the description list, that's DL, close it, and then now we start the description tab. This space is not necessary, sorry for that. DT. Now DT here we can say something like Gmail graphics, and then close our DT, and then we say DD. See, I've said DD is used to describe DT. Then we have DD for description of the term. We're trying to describe the DT, so you can say free web design class, and then close the DD. You can open another DT, and then say free HTML class, then you close the DT. Then you can also open another DD to explain the DD. have dd, and for here we have this is our second class. Let's close that dd. And now let's close the whole dl. Also close the body. Also let's close the HTML. Let's close them. So let's save this. You can say dl.html. Go to a folder. It is, open it in browser. There you have it. So basically you can see something like this. So you have HTML graphics, and then you have describe the list for this one. So it's a free web design class. We have this one, and then it's described by have this dt or free HTML class, and then the dd to describe it. You have this as second class. So we have them, but the best thing is used to describe lists. Basically we can use the list of items we have to describe them. Use just an example. Now I hope you have learned about lists and how you can describe lists, and now I know you can be able to describe lists, and you have learned more on lists. Ensure you do an example, ensure you do examples, ensure you do examples. So that's all for today, and let's meet in the next class.